Welcome to Fertility TV, the YouTube channel dedicated to fertility and helping you get pregnant. As you've enjoyed so many of the real life case studies that I've shared with you, I thought that I would put out a little bit more of that to inspire you, to create more hope, and to guide you on some of the things that I've done with these women that maybe you can start doing on your own. In this case study, I'm going to be talking about miscarriage, multiple miscarriages, and multiple failed IVF cycles. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Marc Sklar, the natural fertility expert, and I help couples from all over the world get pregnant with my virtual online programs and consultations. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment if you find my videos helpful, because that helps my videos be found by other women and couples who are trying to get pregnant just like you. In this video, you're going to hear the real story from one of the women that I coached personally. And I'm super thankful to her for sharing her story, one, to inspire you, but also because she's super private, because she holds a very public profession, and she was a little bit shy and concerned about sharing her story. So I'm thankful for her for sharing, but you're going to see this one's a little bit different because she shares it in audio versus video because she didn't want to show her face. She's from Switzerland, and like I do with many of the women and couples that I coach, we did everything online. And I'm going to be explaining to all of you about her case and what we did as you hear her voice telling her story. And best of all, at the end, I'm going to share with all of you what you can start doing to create your own personal plan so that you can get the same results. She talked about nutrition, detoxification, lab work, the emotional piece of what she went through, and how she went through it. And that's what I'm determined for all of you to figure out for yourselves. There's so many things that all of you can be doing to improve your fertility that you might not have known about because nobody told you. I'd love to teach you everything that I did with her so that you can get pregnant too, but that would make this video way too long. That's why I want to invite you to a free fertility training where I teach you the 5 steps to a positive pregnancy, just like I did with her and thousands of other women. This training has all actionable steps that you can start to implement right now. My objective is for you to create your own fertility plan so that you can start down the path to get a positive pregnancy. If you've been trying for 6 or more months, and if you're 30 or over, it's time to take action now. Trust me when I tell you that this training could be the difference between you getting a positive pregnancy in the next year or just continuing to try as you always have. So let's listen in to her story so that I can tell you a little bit more about what we did on her journey.
We thought about, becoming a family and welcoming a little one to this world. Little did we know it would be such a challenging and bumpy road. I actually fell pregnant quite a few weeks after we decided we wanted to try conceiving. Regrettably, I had a miscarriage. And not only 1, but 2 and 3. And of course, this is when my gynecologist here in Switzerland started to wonder if it was perhaps time to do some more testing.
So at this point, I just want to point out to all of you, she right off the bat tells you they started to try, and she had 3 consecutive miscarriages. In the past, the definition for recurrent pregnancy loss was 3 consecutive losses to be able to determine if you should start to move forward with additional testing. That has now changed to 2 consecutive losses before your OBGYN will start to run some labs. My preference is to start to really look at things even with 1 loss, maybe not as in-depthly as we would with multiple, but it starts to tell you that something's not working right and we need to look a little bit deeper. So my only comment here, and I always express it to her, although that wasn't anything that we would have known at the time, is that to start to take action sooner rather than later and to listen to your gut so that you know when is the right time to move forward. Your body will always tell you if something's wrong and when you should start to seek out additional help.
It properly antiphospholipid syndrome, which is the presence of antibodies in your blood that can cause recurrent miscarriages. And of course, we were devastated, and this is when my gynecologist at the time thought maybe it was time to give IVF a go.
So she said this is when, if you missed it, this is when they determined that she had endometriosis and antiphospholipid antibodies. Now, these 2 things individually are a concern for fertility, but together certainly make it more challenging. right? Now, the other thing that we need to recognize is she was just referred by her OBGYN to her IVF doctor, which is just fine. But IVF will not always fix these issues. Okay, depending on who you see, their experience, and what their purpose is. Sometimes their goal is just to, or most of the time, their goal is to just bypass these issues and help you get pregnant. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you might not have an additional loss or miscarriage if those underlying issues aren't addressed.
We did one cycle, which turned out to be a failure. The
First
second
IVF
one was
didn't
a bit
work.
better, but still, after the implantation, there was no baby. And after the third failed IVF, this is when one of the best clinics here in Switzerland told us that, unfortunately, they were really sorry, but there was nothing more Western medicine could do for us. And that the other options we should be looking at were adoption or egg donation, which are
Right, so no one goes into starting to have a child saying that they want to do egg donor or adoption. We want to have our own biological children. She tried 3 cycles, none of which worked, and all of standard IVF procedures said there's nothing more that they could do. So I sped up the video just a little bit and I'll fill you in. What she had said was that she was wondering at this point, or her and her husband were wondering, was there really any additional hope? Were they meant to have their own biological children? But more than anything, they asked 2 main questions. One was, why was this happening? And was there anything that they could do outside of conventional medicine to address these issues?
here we were looking for some answers on the internet. And this is when we came across Marc's videos and Marc's channel, which were enlightening to say the least, because finally, we were able to get some clues. You know, we heard about detox, about alternative medicine, about nutrition, about genetic testing, and improving the quality of my eggs. And I thought, finally, there's somebody who seems to be looking at the global picture. So
you all need to know there's different perspectives to the same thing, right? If you've got a coin and someone's looking at heads and the other person's looking at tails, they don't realize that the other side of the coin is there, right? So there's always another perspective that can yield insight and hope into your fertility journey. And conventional medicine and standard IVF is not designed to address those things. They have a real purpose, but it's not designed for these issues.
I remember doing some marathon weekend where we would be watching video after videos and trying to educate ourselves. I guess that was also the key. I wanted to be able to look at myself in the mirror and tell myself, okay, it didn't work, but at least I did everything I could do. I educate myself. I surrounded myself with the best experts there are out there, and we really tried everything we could. And
I hear this often for everybody. I want to make sure that I am educated and knowledgeable about my situation and what I can do to change it. And most of all, that I've tried everything I could try to change and improve my fertility and have a child. She wanted the same thing. So we started working together. I reviewed her lab work, realized that there were some additional tests that she hadn't had done that we needed to do. And we ran those labs, or she ran them there, sent me the results. Simultaneously, as I got those results, she fell pregnant again for the 4th time. And unfortunately, she had another miscarriage, but we were just starting to work together. What this told me was that she didn't really need the IVF cycles because she was getting pregnant on her own naturally. What we needed to do was figure out why she wasn't able to hold the pregnancies.
Miscarriages, and Marc was one of the few people to tell us not to lose hope. He actually saw this as a pretty positive sign. And so we continued doing some tests, some I had never heard here in Europe, where the result had to be sent in the States. I continue working on nutrition, working on reducing the exposure to, all those products that we have in our daily life that are quite not good and for us. I really lost some weight. I work on stress management. He was a wealth of knowledge and really had us rethink the way we were living, basically, and doing things we were doing on a regular basis. And
So we take for granted the things we do on a daily basis. We think that we've been doing them, so they're just fine. What we did with her was that we reevaluated her entire situation, her entire lifestyle and case, to see what things were influencing her fertility, her reproductive health, and her overall health. And this was the foundation for her making those adjustments, both in lifestyle, in household products, and in toxins and detoxification, and in the entire plan that we put together for her.
We were doing on a regular basis. And I was actually 40 when I fell pregnant for the fifth time, as we were on vacation. And this time, the pregnancy went through. And in October 2018, I welcomed a healthy and beautiful baby boy, who is the joy of our life, of course. And really, we were super, super excited and blessed and grateful. And I don't think we could have done this without the knowledge we acquired with Marc and his support and the community that is surrounding also all this experience. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's very important not to lose hope. I am 41. I managed to become pregnant after 4 miscarriages and 3 failed IVF. And it was not an easy journey. I just would not take no for an answer. And the other thing I'm happy to report back on is 9 months after I gave birth, I actually welcomed this wonderful news of becoming pregnant again. And I am due in April, and this time it's going to be a girl.
Just listening to her story, you could see my excitement, but I get the chills. I mean, you can't see it, but my hairs are standing up on my skin because it just brings me so much joy to hear her emotion and her determination and her ability to maintain her hope that she can achieve a pregnancy and have a successful pregnancy. And it's the same thing for all of you.
Well, I would say that his angle and his approach are not the conventional one, and yet he's the one who's getting the results. And he's never going to force you into something you don't feel comfortable, but you always have a privileged contact with him to ask any type of questions. You know, is it safe to fly at that many weeks of pregnancy? Do you think it's reasonable that I undertake this particular task?
If you continue, just like she said, doing the conventional approach, we're going to end up spinning our wheels and ending up in the same place. My question for all of you is, what can be different? Yes, my approach might not be conventional, but if we don't change the way we're doing things, if we don't change our actions, if we don't change our lifestyle, if we don't change our perspective on fertility, then how can we expect to get a different result than the one we've always been getting? I want a different result for all of you, and I do believe you can get there. But we need to find what the root issue is and take a different approach, an unconventional approach to you achieving your dreams of having a family. Just as you heard, she had 4 miscarriages, 3 failed IVF cycles, and was told that the only option was either donor egg or adoption. And she ended up having a natural, healthy baby at 41 and is now pregnant with number 2 at 42. This can be true for you too. Register for my free training at marcsklar.com/positive pregnancy. I'm on a mission to help all of you take control of your fertility. So I want you to reserve your spot for my free training by clicking right here. And remember, there is always hope.